I'm about the most normal Chance the Rapper fan that you can probably find. I think his early music is really good. So good, in fact, I actually bought a coloring book vinyl whenever they went and restocked for his, like, I think it was the 5th anniversary? No, it'd be 10th. And I'm really not a big fan of the Big Day, but neither is anybody. Which makes me happy to say that STARLINE is much more of a return to form for Chance, in my opinion, but kind of a step forward at the same time. It has been 6 years since the last Chance the Rapper album with the Big Day, and I just want to say I think it's very smart that he took such a long break in between albums, especially with the amount of backlash the Big Day got. And me personally, I do think it's not a good album, but I think a lot of people hated a little too much and took it a little too far at the same time. He's definitely better than me because I wouldn't have been able to handle the discourse and the backlash, but I do think that that was kind of necessary to get this album, which I think it is very nice to see that most of this album, or most of like the discourse around Starline, has actually been pretty good. I think a lot of people like this project. A lot of people think it's really good, and I think that's dope. I really like seeing something that Chance has made is getting the recognition, especially whenever it deserves it. I think it deserves it. I really like Starline. I think it is a pretty good album. I think it starts off really strong, and there's a big middle portion. Like, I want to say roughly the first 3 to 5 songs are really good to amazing. The kind of middle, like 10-ish, are kind of just pretty good, and then the last ones are kind of just cool, alright-ish. Because I do think it starts to lose gas closer to the end of the project. Still really like it though, and I think Speed of Love is a good outro. I really like the song with Young Thug and Tia Corin. I love the Lil Wayne and Smino. A lot of different voices on this project, which is nice to hear, and they're all doing a pretty good job, but I love Chance's voice throughout a lot of this project. I love Chance's voice anyway. I think it is so unique, and when he uses it right, it does like work really well. I think the whole album transitions into each other very well. It flows really nice. I really like Tree, the one with Lil Wayne and Smino. I think that might be one of my favorite songs off the project. Same with the intro. I think the intro is really strong to the project. I think like not just the first song, which is the Starside intro. I think Ride is really good. No More Old Men is really good. The song with BJ, the Chicago Kid, is really good. A lot of that stuff, I think there's a lot to like there. Good flows, good bars. There's no real corny bars or anything. Everything is nice and a lot of nice production on a lot of the songs. Actually, I would even go a stretch farther to say the production is great at a lot of parts. I think the beat to Drape, how do you say it? Is it Drape Toe Mania? Sorry. And Back to Go, that little back to back there, and I think I can't find it, but the song with Joey Badass is also produced really good. Link Me in the Future is another pretty good song that I like off here, a notable one. Just there's a lot to like here. I do think this is kind of an evolution in Chance's sound anyway, because you can tell that this is definitely more mature than 10 years ago, a decade ago at this point on the coloring book. You can tell he has a lot more of a head on his shoulders and it's more evolved, but it's not in the way that the Big Day was with corny bars, bad production, and bad lyrics. Even though I do think there is more to like than other people like to admit on that project. Like, I think Handsome is not a bad song, you know? But that is more of a guilty pleasure. Sorry, my voice kind of just went crazy there for a second. I really don't think The Big Day is as bad as a lot of people like to say it is, but I still don't like it. And I think Starline is definitely a major step up. And I'm looking at my rating on it, and I'm kind of contemplating if I feel like it is too low or not. I'm kind of, I'm going to keep contemplating it as, it goes on. I might change my mind, I might not. I'm trying to look at some more notable parts in my notes to talk about. A lot of the ways where you can see this maturity is like how Chance talks about his recent divorce, fatherhood, and his artistic doubts. And I think that using this more soulful kind of approach that he does is definitely a step in the right direction. And with his unique voice, I think he's able to pull off something that you don't really hear everywhere else. You know what I mean? And lyrically wise, anyway, that kind of like being unique kind of comes with a package to it, or at least like a different type of perspective because everyone is different. You know what I'm saying? And Chance is that like a good songwriter and a good lyric writer to where he's able to help you kind of go along these things. You know, I really like hearing about the divorce because I don't know, I think stuff like that has always been interesting to me. And even though stuff like that might not, like, oh crap, my headphones. And I do think that unlike the big day, that does kind of help remind people of the coloring book and acid rap type of era, especially with the kind of soulish, gospelish sound that definitely sounds the most Chicago. This might be some of the most Chicago he has sounded in a while, and I'm saying that as a compliment. However, I do think this is a more polished version of both of those albums, which does not necessarily equate to better all the time, but this is definitely polished. It is definitely cleaner. It is a little bloated, you know what I'm saying, because of the kind of the runtime. Like I said earlier, the ending of the album definitely does lose gas, but those aren't bad songs. The album could just maybe do without them, or maybe if the track list was kind of structured differently, they would have different parts. Some radio-like friendly bangers, you know what I'm saying? I just came up with a awesome terminology, radio-like, or radio-like friendly like bangers. I just thought of that off the top of my head. The song that I mentioned earlier, Drapetomania, that one is one of my least, like, lesser favorites. I think I said I like the beat on it earlier, which I do like the beat, but it's one of my least favorites because it kind of feels out of place a little bit. There's another one on here that I thought that about too. I think Pretty was one that I thought that about. And Space and Time, even though I kind of like that song, I do think it kind of doesn't really make any sense to be on this album. You know what I mean? Ultimately, I just wanted to say that this album is a massive bounce back from the big day, from that kind of seeing probably the lowest I think we can ever see from Chance the Rapper. And to be honest, that was probably the lowest day, or like the smallest day he could have had, or at least the big day, but it ain't the type of big day he was wanting, because to be honest, sadly, that probably did kind of mess up the trajectory, sorry, I can't talk, of his career a little bit. However, I love this bounce back from him, or from him. I love it for him. You know what I'm saying? I need sleep. Overall, I give this album, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, that is higher than what I did have it, or like wrote down by like zero point 0.5, which, you know, might not sound like a big difference, but I'm trying to be more strict on ratings that I give out. So, you know, the 0.5, it goes a long way. Another daily upload in the books. Do you still believe? Do you still think I'm not going to do daily uploads? You ho? I know what you said, John. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord. The link is in the comments. I also have a new song dropping on Tuesday, this upcoming Tuesday, that, you know, by the time this is uploaded, so go pre-save that.